Hey there, my name's Anisha Rathod and I'm with CUESA's Foodwise Teens program. Today I want to show you how you can take the beautiful, colorful produce in your welcome box and turn it into delicious rainbow spring rolls. The first thing you want to do before you get started in the kitchen is you want to wash your hands and you want to wash the fruits and vegetables you're going to use in this recipe. I did that before filming, so just make sure that you do that too before you get started. The next thing we want to talk about is how to use a knife safely and effectively. A knife is going to be one of the most important tools you use in the kitchen, so it's really important to know what you're doing when you're using it. First, whenever you're cutting and using the knife, make sure that your attention is fully on whatever you're cutting and the knife. If you find that your attention is being pulled in multiple directions, put the knife down, stop cutting, address what needs to be addressed, and then you can return to cutting with your full focus and attention on what you're doing. Whenever we're not using the knife, we want to put it down. We don't want to wave it around and gesture with it because we might hurt someone or ourselves. When we put the knife down, we want to make sure it's on a flat, stable surface, nothing slippery, nothing wet, because we don't want it to fall and hurt someone. When you put a knife down, you also want to make sure that the point is facing away from you or anyone else. And that's so that no one accidentally walks into the point and hurts themselves. All right, now how do we hold a knife? We want to have a nice firm grip on our knife. We don't want to have a loose grip because we don't have a lot of control over the knife. You also don't want to hold the knife from the back because you also don't have a lot of control. So find a nice firm grip on the handle and feel out what feels comfortable for you. All right, I think we're ready to start cutting. So here I have a carrot, a cucumber, a radish, and a bell pepper. Now you'll notice that my ingredients might look a little bit different from yours, and that's because I'm in New Jersey. And all 4 of these ingredients you received are from the Ferry Plaza Farmers Market in California. And all these items that you received are super, super fresh, meaning they came right from the farm, went right to the farmer's market, and then into your box, into your house. So it might only be a few days from when these plants were picked off of trees or plants out of the ground and brought right to your doorstep, which I think is pretty cool. So we're going to cut all of these items into long, thin strips. If you can imagine, they're going to look like little matchsticks. And in kitchens, we call that a Julienne. It's a French term, but we use it widely in the US too. And if you'll notice, all these items are pretty round, right? So they might feel kind of scary to cut. And it's really important that we feel safe when we're cutting fruits and vegetables. So I'll show you how to cut all of these round objects. Now before we do that, your carrots might look a little different. They might have greens on them. Your radishes might have greens on them. And you'll notice that they even have a little bit, this one has a little bit of its greens left on it. So what you can do is you can actually cut that off using your nice firm grip. And we can save both of these and put them in the compost. So I'm going to put them right here and they're going to go in the compost after I'm done cooking. All right. So now we have our carrot here and we're going to make some nice long thin strips called a julienne. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make this round object have a flat surface so I can put it face down on the cutting board. So I'm going to use what's called a tunnel grip. So you're going to make a C shape or a tunnel with your hand, and you're going to use that to hold the item and stabilize it. And then I'm going to take my knife and I'm going to put it through the tunnel, and I'm going to make a nice firm cut down the center of my carrot. And you'll see that I now have 2 flat sides to my carrot. So it'll be a lot easier to cut now. Now in order to cut my carrot into long, thin strips, I'm going to use another cutting method called the claw method. So you're going to take your hand and you're going to bend your fingers so that they touch the palm of your hand, even your thumb. Just like that. And you'll notice that when I do that, I have this kind of almost flat line here. It's pretty flat if you see it that way. And so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to hold my fruit or vegetable with that grip. And I'm going to take the knife and I'm going to put the blade right up against this part of my hand. It's the third part of your finger. If you look at how your finger is divided up. And as I cut, I'm going to keep the knife resting against the side of my hand. And I'm going to cut. Now, why do I do that? Because if I hold an item like this and try to cut it, I'm at risk of cutting my fingers. When I do this, and make sure to tuck your thumb in too, I'm less likely to cut myself. So we're gonna actually use the claw method this way. And you're gonna cut some nice, long strips. And if that feels difficult, you can actually cut your carrot into smaller pieces. Find a flat surface, find your claw grip, and you'll have some nice thin strips like this. And so this is still kind of thick, and so I'm going to put it back down on the cutting board. I'm going to use my claw method, and I'm going to cut it so it's even thinner. And then once I have my carrot cut up, I'm going to put it on a tray where I'm going to put all my cut veggies so that I can prepare my rainbow spring rolls after. And I'll save these to cut later. Same thing with the radish. We're going to use our tunnel method first. Make 2 flat surfaces, and then use our claw method and cut nice thin strips. And now you'll notice they look like half moons, not exactly like matchsticks yet. So I'm going to put the flat side down. You can actually stack a few on top if you want. Just make sure it feels stable. If it doesn't, do them one at a time. And I'm going to use my claw method. And I'm going to cut what becomes these nice thin matchsticks. And so like I said, if when you stack them, it doesn't feel safe, you can do them one at a time. Same thing. And now I'll put these on my tray, where I'll put all of my cut ingredients. And I'll save these to cut up for later. All right, same thing with the bell pepper. We're gonna make our tunnel. And you'll notice that there's something different inside of the bell pepper. So we'll go ahead and pull that inside out. And if you notice, the inside is actually seeds. So if you want, you can actually save these seeds. You can dry them and you can plant them, and then you can get a pepper plant of your own. If you don't want to do that, you can just take this whole thing and put it in the compost, and it'll go right back into the earth. So I'm going to put it here in my pile of things to put in the compost. And now I have 2 flat surfaces. I'll save this one for later. So I'll put the flat surface down, I'll make my claw, and I'll go in, and I'm going to cut this bell pepper. And now, sometimes a pepper can be a little hard to get thin strips out of, but that's okay. You'll just take each individual piece, use your claw method, and you can go in and make it thinner. So now I have lots of little pieces of pepper that I will also put on my tray. Now I think you get it at this point, so I won't show you the cucumber, but you do the same thing like you did with the carrot and the radish and the bell pepper. Next, I'm going to cut my tofu. So what you'll do is you'll take your tofu in the package and you'll open up the package and drain all the liquid out. But you'll notice the tofu is still a little bit wet. And so what I like to do is I like to put a heavy plate. I like to put my tofu in a plate and then put a heavy plate on top. And so I have that right here. So you'll see my tofu's in between these 2 plates, and it's been sitting for about 15 minutes. And now, when I pour this out, you see all this liquid that comes out? So now I have tofu that's a little bit drier, so it's not going to be so wet in my spring rolls. And I like to do this plate method because it saves a lot of paper towels. So I'm going to use the same method to cut my tofu, claw method. So I'll make some nice thin slices like that. And then I'm going to stack them on top of each other, and again using my claw method, make some nice long strips that are starting to fall apart. Feel free to make different shapes. Feel it out and see what you want to make. You can also use your peeler to make different shapes with the carrots and the radishes and the cucumbers. And all these different shapes are going to have different textures in our mouths. So feel free to explore. I'll show you how to do the cucumber with a peeler then. So I'm going to use my claw method, cut off this little piece of cucumber. I'm going to use my tunnel method and cut it in half. And then I'm going to take my peeler. And now whenever you use a peeler, you want to peel away from you. You never want to peel towards you because you could hurt this part of your hand. So you want to have a nice firm grip. And you can make some thin strips like this. So here I have my julienne and a carrot, and I have some ribbons of cucumbers. So feel free to play around. Okay. We've done our carrots, we've done our bell pepper, we've done our radishes, we've done our cucumber, we've done our tofu. What's next? Here I have some spring onion. Now I think the one that you all have has a reddish bottom, but it's effectively the same kind of plant. Now if you notice, the bottoms of the spring onion have roots. These things right here. And so a spring onion is really cool because what we can do is we can actually stick these roots in water and it'll grow back. So I'm going to save part of my spring onion to grow back. So you want to leave about 2 inches. So I'm going to use my claw method and cut that little bottom right there, and I'm going to save this and I'm going to put it in some water so it can grow. And then with the rest of my spring onions, I'm going to want to use my claw method and cut little slices. And so you'll notice I'm getting these little round pieces like this. And one thing to note is the white part of the onion has a different flavor than the green part of the onion. And you can try it out to see what the difference is when you eat it. All right, so I'll just cut a few more of these. And I'm going to put these on my plate too. And the spring onions we're going to use for our sauce, but you can also put it inside your spring roll. All right. What's next? Can anyone guess what this is? It's ginger. So for ginger, we have this peel on the outside. And so the first thing we want to do is we want to take off the peel. And so I like to use the side of a spoon. And if you scrape it, it just comes right off. Just like that. So you can use the side of a spoon. You can also use a peeler. And remember, you want to peel away from your hand. I'm going to gather up all these ginger skins and I'm going to put them in my compost pile. So here I have a little piece of ginger, and we're going to use a different technique for cutting the ginger, which is called a mince. And a mince just means that you cut it into really, really, really small pieces. And so first let's learn how to do a mince. So we'll hold our knife with a nice firm grip, and we'll keep the point on the cutting board. And when you do a mince, it's really important to make sure the knife point never leaves the cutting board. Next, you'll take your other hand and you'll put it flat on top of this dull part of the blade. Make sure you do not put it on the sharp side. And we're just gonna keep this hand on top of the blade, and I'm gonna have a rocking motion with my other hand. And this hand up here just really helps to ensure that this point never lifts up off the cutting board. So you can start by cutting your ginger into a few small pieces using your claw method. All right, and then I'm gonna gather them up and I'm gonna mince them. And if you find that your pieces are going everywhere, just gather them back up. Oops. See, I didn't do that safely. I should put this off of my cutting board. All right, and then you might notice that you have some pieces stuck onto the knife. And so what you can do is very, very carefully take your finger, very carefully, and gently brush it off. And you never want to brush into the blade. You always want to brush towards the sharp part of the blade, just like that. So the sharp part is down here. So I'm just gonna gently flick them off. And now I'm gonna gather up all my ginger. And this is what my ginger looks like. Now you can keep going and make your ginger really, really small. And I'm gonna put this on my tray also, with all of my prepared ingredients. Next, we're gonna do our garlic. So garlic has this skin on the outside of it, if you can see. And so one way you can get it off is you can just cut off the bottom and then peel it off. But sometimes that's really difficult to do. So another technique is you can take your knife, and again, be very, very careful so that you don't touch the sharp part of the blade. And you can use the bottom of your hand and just press the knife down. And see how I'm pressing my hand on the dull side and not the sharp side. And then, you see, the skin just comes right off, just like that. And then we're gonna do the same mincing technique for the garlic. So first I'm gonna cut it into some nice slices using my claw method. And then here, I'm going to mince it up. And again, you might notice that it all starts to build up on here, so very gently brush your finger in the direction of the sharp blade to get it off. And now here's my garlic, also minced up. And I welcome you to mince it into even tinier pieces. Next, I have my mint. Now I don't have Thai basil here, but you're gonna do the same thing with the Thai basil. So for your herbs, you can pluck them off of the stems. And you can either leave the leaves whole, so you can lay them into your spring roll and have big bites, or you can mince them up too. I'm gonna leave them whole for now, and I'm gonna put this in my compost. Now make sure to save a few full stems of mint. And what we can do with the mint is the same thing we can do with the spring onion. We can put it in water, and it can grow roots. So I'm gonna pull off the bottom leaves of this mint, and leave about half of the leaves on them. And I'll put it in a cup of water, along with my spring onion. And here, I actually have some mint that my mom and I have been growing in here for about a month now. And you can see it has all these roots, and it's really ready to go into the ground. Last item I'm gonna cut up, and then I think I've cut up everything I need to, is my jalapeno. Now be very careful when cutting a jalapeno because it's really spicy. And so I like to do it last because it makes the cutting board kind of spicy. So same thing with the jalapeno, we'll cut off the top using our claw method. And I'll put that into the compost. And then we'll use our tunnel method and we'll cut it in half. Now jalapeno also has seeds like the red pepper, and you can save them or you can eat them. Just know that the seeds will make it extra spicy. So I'm only gonna use a small piece of this jalapeno because I don't like a lot of spicy food. So I'm just gonna use a quarter of the jalapeno. And I wanna put it in my sauce. You're welcome to make slices like this and put them into your spring roll, or you can mince it. So I'm gonna mince it and I'm gonna put it in my sauce. So what I'm doing right now is just cutting them into small pieces, and then I'm gonna mince. All right, they're not the smallest, but that's okay. I know my mom likes a lot of spice, so she'll enjoy biting into those. And I'm gonna put them on my tray right here. All right. And now here's my whole tray of ingredients. And so we're ready to start putting together our spring rolls. Now that I've finished cutting up my ingredients, it's time to make the sauce. And then it's time to start assembling the spring rolls and then eat them. Now we haven't given you a recipe for the sauce, but what we've given you is a lot of different flavors for you to combine and then try and see how you like those flavors. Ask someone else around you to try it and see what it's missing. See what you like, see what you don't like. Is it too sweet from the honey? Is it too salty from the soy sauce? Is it too acidic from the lime? Is it too spicy from the jalapeno? Use your different senses and try to figure out what's missing. So here I have an empty bowl. So I'm going to start with a little pinch of ginger, a little pinch of garlic, a little pinch of my spring onions, and a little pinch of jalapeno. So do you see that right there? And next, I'm going to take my lime. I'm going to use my tunnel method and cut it in half. I'm going to squeeze in some juice. Just like that. So that's about how much lime juice I've added. Then I'm going to add in a little bit of soy sauce, starting with just a splash. I have some water in this tray, so I'm going to add a couple spoonfuls. And then here I have some honey. So I'm going to get a clean fork and scoop out a tiny bit of honey and put it into my sauce. And then I'm going to mix it up. Really get that honey off the fork there. I'm going to grab another clean spoon and I'm going to taste my sauce. Ooh, it's definitely got a lot of lime in it. So I might add some honey and some soy sauce and just keep experimenting and see what flavors you like. Last, I'm going to show you how to assemble your spring rolls. So here once again I have my cut up ingredients. I'm going to move my knife because I don't need it anymore. And I have a tray of some warm water. Here I have my packet of rice papers. I'm going to pull one out. So I'll dip it in the water first. make sure it gets wet all the way. And if you don't have a tray this big, you can use something smaller. Just try not to break the rice paper. And I'm gonna just flatten it out to get all the air bubbles out. I'm gonna take a few of my ingredients. And so I actually don't have purple spinach, but what I do have is some purple lettuce. So I'm gonna actually put the lettuce down first. I'm gonna put my rainbow veggies all inside it. I'm gonna put some tofu in. Here are some of my peeled cucumbers. And why not throw a few spring onions in here, just for some extra crunch. And now here I have my mint leaves, so I'm gonna place them on top, like that. And now the fun part. So to roll the spring rolls, I actually like to have it, I like to roll it away from me. So you'll notice the rice paper starts to get a little slippery, and you'll kind of pinch everything in, start to roll, fold in your sides, and you'll keep rolling just like that. And if you have holes like I do, that's okay. Don't worry about it. And there we go. I've got one spring roll just like that. I can cut it in half and show you what it looks like inside. Just like that. And then once I finish up my sauce, I'm gonna dip it in there and eat it with my parents. I hope you enjoy making your spring rolls, and if you have any questions, definitely reach out to us and we can help you out. Happy cooking!